We are finally at the final part of every Best Animated Feature nominee ranked. Only 20 films remain, and they are among the best animated films I have ever seen. Every single one has impacted my life in some way, and they define who I am as a person. There are childhood favorites, some of which ignited my love for movies and animation. There are artistic masterpieces that made me appreciate all the little details. Historical pieces that opened my eyes to the horrors of the world. And a couple films that just broke me completely. This part has had the most placements change because I wanted to be very sure this is exactly my opinion. But enough stalling, let's finish this ranking.
You are dead, dead, dead. You are dead, dead, dead.
God, I love Coco. When I first watched it, I loved it so much that I rewatched it 2 more times in the same day. I just hadn't seen anything quite like it before, and all these years later, it still holds up really well. Obviously, as my movie palette grew, the less and less this film stood out to me, but it still hits all of its emotional and story beats really well. I do have some problems with it, like the music ban is a little silly, but I could accept it. Because I can see why it could be a sore spot for this family, given the situation. There are also some scenes that drag a bit, but other than that, this is an amazing film. Miguel is a great protagonist. You get his rebellious attitude, yet he does care for his family. He just disagrees with their ideals. This can be a tough situation that I know a lot of people can relate to. He then gets sent to the Land of the Dead and meets his older relatives. The design of the Land of the Dead is beautiful. It is vibrant and colorful, and there are so many cool details, like how the bottom layers have older architecture, but the higher you go up, the newer it gets. Also how the technology there is all outdated. Subtle details like this gives the world so much life. Ernesto de la Cruz is another great twist villain. The reveal that he actually killed Hector and stole his songs is such a good reveal. How he indirectly destroyed an entire family because his partner wanted to be with them is so cruel. This isn't even something he regrets either, because he put it in one of his films. This also has the reveal of Hector being Miguel's great-great-grandfather, which is a really good reveal and was given proper foreshadowing. Namely when he doesn't want to perform Remember Me during the festival. He didn't want to perform it because it was a personal song for his daughter. I do have one issue with Ernesto though. Why didn't he rep up Hector's photo? This bothers me so much. It isn't like the film's plot wouldn't work if he did. The photo does get destroyed later on and wouldn't affect the ending. All you would have to do is tweak the climax a bit. Maybe have it so Miguel's family tried to expose Ernesto during his concert. I don't know. I do like how Imelda and Hector reconnect, how she is initially mad but warms up to him because she has always loved him. And then we get the ending with Miguel and Mama Coco. I always tear up during this scene. It is such a bittersweet moment seeing Coco finally remember her father. It's a masterfully done scene. The music in this film is obviously amazing. Remember Me works really well as it is presented in 2 completely different contexts. One as a major hit and one as an emotional song. Un Poco Loco is also a really fun song. While not original to this film, the use of La Llorona is excellent and makes the climax even more exciting. This film won for 2017, and while it is a well-deserved Pixar win, there are still 2 other films nominated that I think are better films. I've mentioned how lopsided 2017 was with its nominees. 2 films in the bottom 10 and 3 films in the top 20.
My plane. That killed people.
The Wind Rises was Miyazaki's last film before his last film. While The Boy and the Heron serves as a better swan song, I like this film ever so slightly more. This film is about the real-life plane engineer Jiro Horikoshi, who is best known for the Mitsubishi KA-14 and the Mitsubishi A6M Zero Fighter. When I first watched this film, I was somewhat disappointed when I found out his personal life was mostly fictionalized. What I missed is that this film also takes inspiration from an autobiographical novel by Tatsuo Hori called The Wind Has Risen, which is about his wife suffering from tuberculosis. I find it really intriguing that Miyazaki has decided to combine 2 different people's lives together to tell a story, and I think they mesh together really well. This makes my initial flaws somewhat mute because this film isn't trying to be accurate. Let's start with Jiro's half of the story. This is the part I was more engaged with, as you could see Miyazaki flex his passion for aircraft in this film, and it's shown with Jiro perfectly. Seeing Jiro's passions of planes and engineering and seeing the trial and error of designing the planes is just super interesting to watch. I love the contrast with him showing genuine passion, but his colleagues just treat it like another job. Side note, but why does Kurakawa look like the bad guy from the Lorax? Jiro's passion for aircraft and his overall kindness makes it even more heartbreaking knowing that his inventions were used in war and killed so many people. I've seen many compare this to Oppenheimer, and I think they work quite well together because of the stark contrast of similar themes. Wind Rises is generally a more hopeful and optimistic film, while Oppenheimer is more pessimistic. Also, Emily Blunt plays both of the main characters' wives, so there's that. My favorite parts of the film by far are the dream sequences Jiro has. They are stunningly beautiful, and within these dreams he meets Italian inventor Giovanni Caproni, where he often gives Jiro wisdom which influences his career. It's just something I've never seen in any other biopic, and I love them for that. The animation in this film is gorgeous. There is so much detail, and you could see each groove and bolt on the plane, every individual stroke of paint. It is truly astonishing, and it is among the best looking Ghibli films, alongside When Marnie Was There and The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Now on to the Wind Has Risen half of the film, and this lies my only flaw. I do find it somewhat generic, and I've seen this love story many times. But that absolutely doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, it's one of the best instances of this trope. There are a lot of excellent scenes. The scene where Jiro catches Nahoko's hat are wholesome, the painting scenes are beautiful, and their general relationship is very cute. Unfortunately, Naoko suffers from tuberculosis, and the scenes featuring that are heartbreaking. What I neglected to mention about Miyazaki's mother is that she suffered from spinal tuberculosis. I also mentioned in my Boy and the Heron segment is that his father was a plane manufacturer, where he made many planes, including the Zero. So my theory is that Jiro and Nahoko could be representations of his parents, which makes everything in this film fully click with me and explains why he combined these two seemingly unrelated stories. This film is my pick for 2013. Frozen's one was predictable and disappointing, and it's a real shame that it won over this beautiful film. Flea is the only documentary to be ever nominated for this category, and as such it is one of the most unique experiences I've had doing this list. And also, due to the nature of being a documentary, it makes it harder to rank. The film is about a man under the alias of Amin Nawabi, as he tells the story of fleeing Afghanistan to Denmark. The film uses animation to its fullest potential to show his experiences in an extremely vivid way. The art style even changes depending on how intense some scenes are. They really make you feel like you are there with Amin. One scene that stuck out to me the most is a scene where multiple refugees are in the hull of a boat in complete darkness, and it started to leak. So they started to bang on the door to get out. And when they do, you can just see a sliver of light come through, blinding you in the complete darkness. It is a really striking scene that left a lasting impact on me. The film also covers the experiences of being gay in very homophobic countries. It was very interesting to see Amin discover himself, and it is a perspective I don't know much about. And I felt so relieved when his brother took him to the gay bar, and it gave me some genuine hope. Another moment that stuck out to me is when Amin finally gets to Denmark. He still has the fear of being deported back to Russia and Afghanistan, and seeing it depicted in this film really helped me understand what so many people face and fear today. Granted, the documentary format didn't always work for me, and some segments really didn't captivate me, but when it hit, it really hit. And it is a must-watch if you ever want to learn more about someone's first-hand experience of fleeing a country. And it is my pick for 2021. Too bad the Academy only thinks the animation is for kids and just completely ignored this. Next up is Chico and Rita, and this was a film I had the most trouble with figuring out where to place it. It is a love story between a Cuban jazz pianist and a Cuban jazz singer that spans decades in multiple countries, and I personally love it. But I noticed a lot of people who hate it, namely citing the actual romance. which I didn't understand at first, but when hearing their opinions out, a lot of their criticisms are right. Chico is a bit of an asshole at times, but for some reason this didn't bother me, even when I rewatched a few scenes. This bugged me so much that I even stayed up an entire night trying to figure out why I love the romance so much. And then it hit me. It's the presentation. The film is primarily set in 40s and 50s Cuba, and it features some real-life historical figures. Because of this, it feels like a realistic historical recount despite Chico and Rita being entirely fictional characters. This is why I am more forgiving of the relationship despite them not being great people. Comparing it to other films like Ocean Waves, a film with a horrible romance, makes this more apparent. Since Ocean Waves is far more idealized, I get more pissed off about the relationship, while Chico and Rita is more realistic, so I'm less frustrated about the misunderstandings. Another reason why I love the romance is the passion. There is a clear passion with both Chico and Rita, with them appreciating the other's art forms and talents. They are like magnets. No matter what gets in their way, they are always drawn to each other, which is another aspect I love about them. I still get why people don't like this film, and I'm not expecting anyone to change their minds, but what I hope is to help them at least understand why I and so many other people love this film. That being said, there is one scene that really bugs me. So Chico sees a film Rita is in and decides to release a song dedicated to her, but with his dog's name instead. Seems fine enough. What I neglected to mention is that he was dating someone during this and the dog was actually his girlfriend's, and it doesn't add anything to the film and it just doesn't sit right with me. The girlfriend could have been cut and nothing would change, just make it Chico's dog instead. There's more I love about this film, of course, such as the social commentary about racism. Rita becomes a massive Hollywood star, but despite this, she is still struggling due to racial bias. I find this aspect of the film really interesting, as it is what happened to people of color during that time. The film also shows communist Cuba in a light I haven't really seen before. The main reason why I love this film so much is its vibes. It perfectly encapsulates all of its eras and leaves me sucked into the film. The art style really helps invoke the era. The rotoscoping may put some people off, but I love it because of the realistic movements. The backgrounds are absolutely stunning, and of course the jazz compositions made for this film are excellent. It really helps that it's all authentic, with the soundtrack being composed by Bebo Valdez, who was a central figure during the golden age of Cuban music. I kinda have to go on a tangent, but please stop saying La La Land stole from this film. Apart from the basic premise of jazz musicians falling in love, there's nothing else similar about it in terms of tone, characters, and story. This is like the Kimba and Lion King situation all over again. That being said, I do prefer La La Land. I like musicals, what can I say? This is my pick for 2011, but before I end this segment, I would like to invite my dad to talk about how this film takes influences from the culture of the era.
Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm here for Chico and Rita. And while I'd love to talk about how the passion of these two imperfect yet incredible people speaks to me and to anyone who has had ambitions of artistry, I'm really here to discuss one particular strength of this movie. The vividness of Chico and Rita is realized in its historic backdrop. It begins in mid-century Havana, in the streets, in the clubs, or even in the Tropicana. The art style, with club scenes and cityscapes, feels like a continuation of the legacy of Harlem Renaissance artists such as Archibald Motley or Palmer Hayden. Their journey links them through a who's who of jazz names in the bebop, cubop world, including Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, and Thelonious Monk. A dream sequence includes major cultural markers such as Josephine Baker and Casablanca. With all these historic elements, Chico and Rita, as fictional characters, struggle and drift and soar in an animated world that feels palpably real. But everything comes crashing down on them both on New Year's Eve. Chico while playing with Tito Puente in New York, Rita alone on a major stage on the Las Vegas Strip. And of course, this is New Year's Eve 1959. And while neither of their incidents are connected directly with the Cuban Revolution, they are inextricably tied to it. And it takes them 50 years to recover from it. When they do, it's a moment of pure beauty.
Fantastic Mr. Fox is, well, remarkable. This is a movie I could genuinely watch 24/7 without getting bored. If I could only watch one movie for the rest of my life, this would be one of my top choices. There's not a single dull moment in this film. It crams a lot into its short runtime without feeling overstuffed. The characters are all likable and charming. They each have their own little quirks and mannerisms that make them stand out, like Mr. Fox's chirp and whistle, or Kylie's swirly eyes. The interactions between the characters also help give the film so much more personality. Petty squabbles between Ash and Christopherson, or how Mr. Fox and Kylie get along. Mr. Fox is a great protagonist. He is just an extremely charming and likable character. George Clooney delivers a tremendous performance, and he nails his personality down to a T. Bean is a threatening antagonist. I love his unrelenting pursuit of Mr. Fox and how he will never give up, even if it means destroying the environment. And the rivalry between the two is so entertaining to watch. I love how every minor character has a role within this universe. It makes the world feel lived in. The Weasel played by Wes Anderson or the Willem Dafoe rat are all memorable and full of personality, even if we barely get to see them. The animation is obviously breathtaking. I already mentioned how stop motion and Wes Anderson work so well in my Isle of Dogs review. The models of the characters are phenomenal, especially the three farmers. They all have distinct and perfectly exaggerated designs. I love the movements and little flourishes that give this film even more charm. Like the digging animations the animals have, or the perfect water splash after Christopherson dives in the pool, or how the eyes show asterisks when the dogs eat the blueberries. And the colors, oh my god, the colors. This film has such vibrant uses of orange. It really shows how pretty this underrated color is. This is my pick for 2009. While Up is fantastic,
Say that again?
there isn't a single universe where I won't choose Fantastic Mr. Fox over it, and it definitely should have won for this year. Just an absolute banger that I'm always delighted to watch. When I said Ernest and Celestine was the cutest film on this list, I lied. It is actually Marcel the Shell with shoes on. You may be surprised that I put this film so high because I previously stated that I'm not a big fan of mockumentaries. Well, this is an exception. I think one of the biggest reasons this stands out to me more is that it isn't a satire. All this film is doing is telling a story just in a documentary format. This makes me like it more than most others. Something else that stands out is that the characters are believable. Despite being living seashells, their personalities and backstories seem real, that you get invested and sucked into the world of this film. It makes me feel like I'm watching an actual documentary. This is something I wish more mockumentaries took advantage of. If you know any similar films, please let me know. Anyways, I love Marcel. He is adorable and funny, and I will protect him forever. His kind got taken away, only leaving him and his grandmother, Nana Connie, which was really hard on him. Despite this, he learned to live on his own and create unique ways of transportation to help take care of him and Connie. I love how the film shows his independence, and the ways of travel he creates are very inventive, especially the ball. Marcel's loneliness is presented perfectly. There are a lot of great little moments where he just expresses himself, and you desperately want him to find his family. There is one thing preventing this though, his overprotectiveness of Nana Connie. After she gets harmed while he was away on one of his searches, Marcel becomes super protective of her, afraid she might get hurt more, and starts to reject any of her advances on the search, even when Connie tells him it's okay. He eventually gives in because he knows that this is the best chance for him to find his family, and otherwise he would be completely alone. Nana Connie is also a legend. She is one of the sweetest characters I've seen put to film. She's just a pure soul that could do no wrong. Love of 60 Minutes is really cute, and of course the keyboard gag is hilarious. The film also has a hidden story about Dean and his ex-girlfriend in the background. It is rarely paid attention to, but it is there for you to pick up on, and it's super neat to see. This is a beautiful film that I would highly recommend you to watch, and you may or may not cry over shells. The Breadwinner is the final and, in my opinion, best cartoon saloon film on this list. It is actually based on a novel by the same name, which I have read in school, but I don't remember much about it, so I cannot really compare. But this film is about Parvana, a young girl living in Kabul under the Taliban's rule, right before the War on Terror. Her father gets arrested, and because of the rule that woman cannot go outside without a man, there is no one to take care of her family. So she dresses up as a boy under the alias of a Tesh so she could tend to them. As you can tell, this is a very different film from Cartoon Saloon's other films, but that isn't a detriment in the slightest. The film is beautiful and paints a vivid picture of what was going on around that time. Isn't part of the world that Westerners are familiar with, so seeing the struggles of Parvana and her family definitely gives me a new look on the world as a whole. And it makes me even more pissed to see how oppressed women are in Afghanistan and other countries. Everyone should have basic human rights. It is important to note that the film's story is mostly fictional. Parvana is not a real person, but her experiences embodies the experiences of many Afghan girls living under the Taliban's regime. Some key moments in the film is Parvana's relationship with the illiterate merchant Razek, where she teaches him to read and write. The scene where she tells him his wife is dead is truly heartbreaking. I also like the relationship with her family and how she genuinely cares about them. Despite her tough situation, she does take the time to entertain her younger brother by telling a story about a boy that sets out to retrieve seeds from the evil Elephant King. These are told with a beautiful paper-like art style, but at first it seemed fairly disconnected from what was going on in the actual story. It was also not based on any real-world myths, but I don't mind that as much as it served as a breather from the story. That is until the ending. What I neglected to mention is Parvana's elder brother died years ago. We didn't know how he died at first, because it seemed like a very sore spot for the family. But at the end of the story, it was revealed that the boy was her brother, and that he died from a landmine. Confronting this gives Parvana the courage to retrieve her dad from prison. It shows Parvana's growth as a character. This also nullifies my previous complaints about the tale of the boy, because all of them are answered in this one scene, and recontextualize every prior scene. I believe this film is a necessary watch if you ever want to learn more about Afghanistan and the experiences of its citizens.
Potatoes. Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.
Memoir of a Snail broke me. It is one of the most depressing films I've seen, but it is also uplifting at the same time. I was in a rough spot while watching this, and it really helped me get through it, despite being very depressing. It was directed by Adam Elliott, known for directing Mary and Max, and it follows the life of a woman named Gracie, who had a tragic life. Her mother died in childbirth, her father is an alcoholic and then also died, and she was separated from her brother. But despite her life being dark, there are always moments of light, moments of positivity, reasons to keep moving on. Some moments that stand out to me is early in the film, Gracie needs a blood transfusion, and her brother thinks he is gonna die, but still accepts to give his blood anyways. Of course he didn't, but the fact he would sacrifice his own life to save his sister shows a lot about his character. This was the moment I knew this film would be something truly special. Another moment is when Gracie helps out a homeless man. Just a random kind act. But way later in the film, she gets trialed for shoplifting due to her hoarding obsession. But the judge lets her go because he remembers the small act that she did for him, which changed his life, showing how one small moment of kindness could help you later in life unexpectedly. But arguably the biggest spark in Gracie's life is Pinky, an old and eccentric lady that she meets. Pinky is more of a parent than Gracie's actual foster parents. She actually cares for Gracie and gives her moments of hope. She is also the best character in the film, hands down. She is just a sweet soul that has literally done everything and is quite funny. Speaking of which, this film is actually really funny, which made the whole experience a lot more bearable. It's a great mix of dark and surreal humor that fits with the film's vibe perfectly. The animation is beautiful. The stop motion gives the film a certain vibe that I cannot really explain, but it is perfect for the overall tone of the film. And they use some unique techniques, such as using lube for tears. And the color is great too. It's mostly browns, but it's oddly pretty to look at. Near the end of the film, Gracie is at her lowest point ever. Pinky died from Alzheimer's. She thinks her brother died to a fire while he was escaping his insane cultist family. Her lover turns out to be a creep taking advantage of her, and she had enough. She decided to end it all, but remembered Pinky's last words: potatoes. Seemingly random, but she discovers a box in the potato garden. It was Pinky's last words to her, encouraging her to change her life around. And she does. If she ended up doing the deed, she wouldn't have discovered the box, became an animator, find out her brother is still alive, and most importantly, she wouldn't be able to fulfill her father's final wish. No matter how hard life is, no matter how hopeless it feels, no matter how lonely you are, you gotta push through because you could turn your life around for the better. So please, keep going. The world may be really shitty right now, but it wouldn't change if you do nothing. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. This film's message really helped me at a hard time, and I am forever thankful for it. Please watch this film. Flow is my cat's favorite nominee. It is also one of the most stunning films I have ever seen. The film contains absolutely no dialogue and is entirely told through animal body language. The film is animated using Blender, which gives the film a sort of video game aesthetic, but it absolutely works in its favor. But dang it, do I want to play this? Move away, Stray. This is the game I want to play. The animals' behavior is also top-notch. You can tell they did their research on how animals should act. There are so many subtle details in how the animals move, and that is impressive. They especially nailed the cat. You'd think this would make the animals harder to connect with, but no, you understand almost everything about them. Each species has a distinct personality, while still keeping them true to their animalistic nature. The cat is curious yet cautious. The golden retriever is playful and wants to make friends. The other dogs are actual Satan. The lemur is extremely curious and collects trinkets. The capybara is calm and collected. And finally, the bird is serious and stoic. The interactions between the animals are also really well done. A lot of these animals don't naturally meet, so it is a cool what-if scenario seeing these animals interact. I like the cat and the lemur's interactions in particular. Seeing the cat attack the lemur's tail is so funny, and so is the cat chasing the mirror's reflection. The secretary bird and the cat also have a unique relationship. At first, the bird hunts the cat, but there is a moment where the bird spares its life. It is super fascinating to see natural enemies gain trust and respect, and this culminates with the bird's beautiful final moments, which I will admit I still don't fully understand, but it is pretty. The film's environmental storytelling is excellent. You know humans are long gone. You don't know what happened to them, but you see their remnants. Houses, statues, and monuments are plentiful, giving you some hints of what happened. It gives this world some mystery that you kind of want to go back to search for some answers. The same applies to the biblical flood. We see it happening, but we have no idea how it happened. But it is still a very real threat, and that's all you need to know. The film is not complex by any means, but how it perfected almost every element is why it ranks this high. Flow won for 2024, and it absolutely deserved it. This is such an important win, firstly being the first Latvian film to ever win an Academy Award, and also the first indie animation film to win the category. I'm really happy this film won, but I still like Look Back more. You know what, I'm gonna include Look Back on this ranking and no one can stop me. Screw you. As for my final guest, I want to give this film's target audience some time to shine. So here is my cat, Trouble. What do you think about Flow? Alright. Who was your favorite character? What do you think about the, bird ascending to heaven? Alright. How was the animation? Thank you for cooperating.
And if you fuck with death and lose, things can get very messy.
Just missing out on the top 10 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It is my favorite DreamWorks film. It is just a really entertaining film with so many little character moments that just makes the film so great. Firstly, the animation. It is one of the best looking DreamWorks films, only being rivaled by Prince of Egypt and The Wild Robot. Its animation is so vibrant and fluid. The art style is like a storybook, which just makes everything pop. And the action is amazing. Once the frames drop down, you know shit is about to go down. The film balances so many different characters really well. There are 9 characters this film juggles around, and not once does it feel overstuffed. Granted, a lot of characters are in groups so they can flesh them out all at once, but still. Let's start with Puss, who is a major improvement from all of his previous appearances. I already liked him as a concept, but the film is the one that fully fleshes him out. He starts the film arrogant and full of himself, but once he realizes he is on his last life, he is taken aback, trying to process this. Initially scoffing it off before getting scared, and then finally learns to accept that one life is all he needs. Appreciating how fleeting life can be, but can still be fulfilling. No need for extra lives or anything. I also really like Kitty Softpaws. She is actually memorable in this film, and I like her arc is based on her lack of trust. She gets declawed and then Puss abandons her at the wedding, so it makes perfect sense why she doesn't trust anyone, especially Puss. But throughout the film, she learns to trust him. I especially like the banter between the two and how they slowly reconnect. Now on to everyone's favorite therapy Guillermo dog, Perito! I love him so much and I will protect him. He is a pure soul through and through. He is so innocent that he doesn't even realize he has a tragic backstory. He could have easily been annoying, but he was actually one of the funniest parts of the film. Especially when he swears. Oh my god, that caught me so off guard the first time I watched it. One of the best scenes in the movie is the panic attack scene. Yeah, I know how over-talked about the scene is, but it's genuinely great, as we see Puss's fear of death. But a part I especially love is when Perito comforts Puss, because he is a therapy dog. It's a really sweet scene that shows how much he cares about his friends. Goldilocks and the Three Bears are also great. I find the concepts of them being gangsters to be really funny, and they have a good arc as well. Goldilocks' wish is that she wants a real family. I like how it isn't a breakup moment for them. They feel betrayed, sure, but they still help her out because they care about her. This also makes Goldilocks realize that the bears are her real family. It's just a wholesome moment. Granted, the jokes with them do get kinda old. Notice how all the characters have already gotten their wishes? Well, there is one character who hasn't, and that is Jack Horner. He wants all the magic in the world even though he has plenty of it. It truly shows how greedy he is. And does it remind you of a certain company? He is also a really funny villain, and I love how comically evil he is. Killing his Gru, shooting a puppy in the face, it's great. I love silly, pure evil villains like this, and Horner delivers it in spades. Also, the cricket is a really funny gag. But the villain I like more is Death. Holy shit, Death is an amazing character. He is menacing, threatening, hot, he has it all. He pursues Puss specifically because he is overly cocky and Death wanted to put him in his place. I love how he gets joy out of Puss's fear. He thrives off of it, and then becomes disappointed when Puss isn't afraid of him anymore. He is not in the film much, but his presence is everywhere. The multiple action scenes with him are the best in the film, especially the final battle where Puss overcomes his fears. This is my favorite DreamWorks villain by far. This movie is my pick for 2022. Pinocchio was an okay one despite being my least favorite of the year, but Puss in Boots is a much better film and it should have won. I would have also been fine with Marcel Lachelle.
Heart of an artist. Bitch, I'm going hardest. You might make me sad, but my art's better when I'm depressed.
Vincent van Gogh is one of my favorite painters of all time. His paintings are mesmerizing to look at. You go from one stroke to another and they just captivate you. I don't see his paintings as just paintings. I see his paintings as his essence. They show his sorrows, his passions, and his relationships. His legacy lives on in these majestic works of art, with the world finally seeing his genius. When I heard there was a film that was entirely animated in his art style, I knew I had to check it out. Loving Vincent is a masterpiece that truly understands who Van Gogh was. There were over 60,000 paintings made for this movie, each for a single frame, and nearly all of them nail his art style down to a T, and they flow seamlessly, which makes this film one of the most unique viewing experiences I've had for this marathon. The film features references to many of his paintings, and nearly all of the characters are real people he painted. Of course, this film wouldn't rank this highly if it was just about the animation, because it understands who Van Gogh was, and it is a very well-researched film in so many ways. I've seen people complain that it isn't about his life, but that isn't the point. It's about his legacy, his death, and most importantly, how people around the time viewed him. A great example is Armand, who is tasked to deliver to Van Gogh's brother, but initially Armand was very dismissive of Van Gogh. But as the film goes on and he talks to people who knew him personally, he grows an appreciation for him, getting mad at society for not seeing who he truly was. Sort of like how we as a society grew to appreciate him after his death. Every person we meet gives a new light into who Van Gogh was as a person. We see his friends, his lovers, his enemies. They all have different views on him, but they all share insight to who he was. These are the parts of the film that captivate me the most and are why I love this film so much. One person that stands out to me is Paul Gachet, Van Gogh's doctor, who partially blamed himself for his death due to something he said, and he deeply regrets that. Yes, the film dives into the mystery of Van Gogh's death, whether he killed himself or was killed, and the mystery was interesting to follow, but there is one line that recontextualizes everything, that being Dr. Gachet's response.
What's to stop Vincent from doing something improbable? I mean, cutting a piece of your ear off and making a present of it to a whore is hardly probable now, is it?
This showcases how Van Gogh was capable of the impossible and can defy all expectations. And also that finding answers isn't always necessary. Yes, it is a mystery, but the important thing is what he left behind, such as his letters, which serve as a beautiful send-off to this film. This is my pick for 2017. I love Coco, but this film is on another level that understands the life and legacy of one of the world's greatest artists. Please watch it if you haven't already.
It's another day in the life of the Justice Gang!
I almost hit Spider-Man. I mean, Superman.
I beg your pardon?
This is actually a tie between the two Spider-Verse movies. I tend to flip-flop on which one I like more, but for simplicity's sake and to get my points across properly, we are doing Into the Spider-Verse first. Into the Spider-Verse was the push that the American animation industry needed. It is obvious how influential this film is despite only coming out almost 7 years ago. Its impact has been sensed in so many other films such as Puss in Boots, Mitchells vs. the Machines, and K-pop Demon Hunters, among many others. This movie feels like you're watching a comic book, not only in its art style, but with little details like panels showing up or words popping up on screen like an actual comic book. I also love how it blends different art styles seamlessly. They don't feel out of place in the slightest. Okay, maybe besides Scorpion. He's kind of weird. But that's legit my only complaint on this film. The action scenes are also amazing. I love the different frame rates used, the vibrant visuals, and the fluid movements. They are just stunning to look at. Spider-Man has been and will always be my favorite Marvel character, and frankly the only one I'm passionate about in terms of comics. I'm more of a DC fan, sorry. But this film is great at understanding Spider-Man. I always have seen Spider-Man as a concept to be a character to relate to. Because at the end of the day, he is still a normal person, just with superpowers. Almost everyone, no matter who you are, you should relate to at least one version of Spider-Man. Miles is a good example. You relate to his basic school life, his relationships with his parents, wanting to become more independent. These are all things kids can relate to. Spider-Man, specifically his origin story, is a metaphor for puberty, showcasing significant change in the body in a way that most viewers can understand. His character arc of him proving himself to people that underestimate him is great. To me, that's Spider-Man. With Miles being more relatable to younger audiences, I find Peter B. Parker to resonate more with older audiences. He has more adult struggles, going through a midlife crisis. He has experienced loss and a lot of hardships. But even then, he is still Spider-Man. He never gives up and pushes through. I find his relationship with Miles to be super fun, with him being a reluctant mentor. And seeing their relationship grow throughout the film is nice. But eventually he underestimates Miles, not thinking he is cut out for this job. This hurts Miles, but it doesn't stop him. He takes a leap of faith on his own, without any help, showing how he is ready to become independent. The alternate Spider people are entertaining characters. Spider-Gwen is a good character. She does get expanded more upon in the sequel, but as is, I really enjoy her. Spider-Noir, Spider-Ham, and Penny Parker are all enjoyable characters and are really funny. The film also utilized the multiverse really well. It is never the main focus. Yes, there are many alternate versions of Spider-Man, but they all serve Miles' character arc in some way. None of them feel like lame cameos. This is why it sticks out compared to other superhero movies that just use the multiverse as an excuse for cameos, or disrespecting the dead. Kingpin is a threatening villain from the start, killing Spider-Man straight up. You know he isn't someone to mess with. His backstory is good. He cannot let go of his loss to the point he is willing to destroy the universe to get his family back. He is completely blinded by his emotional pain that he starts to blame Miles for his loss. The final thing I want to talk about before I move on to Across the Spider-Verse is the Prowler. Firstly, he is terrifying, elevated by his theme, which is absolutely frightening. Sometimes I hear it whenever I'm alone in the dark. That is when you know you made something truly terrifying. His endless pursuit of Miles is thrilling, until it is revealed that he is Uncle Aaron. This is an amazing twist that isn't too obvious, but gives enough clues throughout the film that you don't feel cheated in the slightest. I really like the decision to make the Uncle Ben character a villain that the hero has to overcome. It puts a unique spin that makes his eventual death more impactful. The scene where Aaron finally captures Spider-Man and realizes he is Miles is excellent. How he immediately feels guilt, but it is far too late. He gets killed by Kingpin. I like how Kingpin shoots Aaron rather than Miles. He could have easily shot Miles and then Aaron, but no, he specifically shot Aaron, showing how he sees disobedience as more of an immediate threat than Spider-Man. Spider-Verse won for 2018, and I completely agree. There weren't any other choices. The other nominees just pale in comparison to this film. Now time to talk about the sequel.
Okay, let's do this one last time.
It's a miracle Across the Spider-Verse is as good as it is. It had an extremely troubled production with its animators being rushed. A few things have slipped through the cracks, like reused dialogue from the first film, or different theaters showing different scenes, but I won't hold it against this film, as I know the people who worked on this film put in their all, and I deeply respect them for it. I hope they are being treated better for Beyond. The film expands on nearly everything from the first film. From the characters, to the world, to the animation, it is an extremely ambitious film and it shows. The animation is a huge step up from the first film. You are sent to many different universes with their own unique art styles. For example, Gwen's universe has a lot of watercolor in it. It is seriously impressive how each universe feels distinct from each other. The same applies to the characters, like Hobie and especially the Da Vinci Vulture. The characters and cameos are also fun. This film has over 200 spider people, and one of them is the bombastic Bagman, so you know it's peak. But they never feel shoehorned in. Yes, they are fan service, but it is self-contained, and there is clear passion put into it. The new characters we spend time with are cool as well. I especially love Spider-Man India and Spider-Punk. Peter B. Parker also gets some more depth, with him becoming a father. I love Spider-Dad, what can I say? Also absolute Delph. The Spot is a really cool villain. I love how he starts off as a silly guy, but as the film goes on, he becomes a genuine threat. And also,
Spider-Man, why did you create that guy?
I didn't.
Is one of my favorite quotes in this entire list. I'm not kidding. The Spot isn't in the film much, however, because for the majority of the film, the antagonist role is filled with Miguel, who is also an amazing character. Do get his motivations and why he dislikes Miles, even if you disagree with him. He is a Spider-Man who lost it all. His theme song is also really good. It is simultaneously terrifying yet not villainous, which fits Miguel as a character. I also think canon events is a really interesting idea that explains common Spider-Man tropes like Uncle Ben dying. It is one of very few meta concepts I actually like. I do have some problems with it, however, because why hasn't Miles or the universe where the spider is originally from collapsed? Surely something should have messed up, right? The film expands on my point of Spider-Man being primarily a character to relate to. You got the little things like struggling with grades or family drama, but also Miles struggling to balance his Spider-Man life with school is similar to how people struggle to balance their personal life and work. There are also queer allegories, the obvious one being Gwen Stacy. In her universe, Spider-Woman is seen as an enemy which she really struggles with, becoming more alienated from her father and friends. Even when she reveals it to her father, he still points his gun at her. Of course they reconcile in a beautiful scene, but I know many people who can relate to her part of the story. Something less obvious but still important to mention is when Miles is contemplating on telling his parents that he is Spider-Man, and how they would react, which is something I can directly relate to. I find the relationship between Gwen and Miles to be really good, even though they are not supposed to be together, and I love Gwen's struggle whether she should tell him the truth or not. Miles' arc is amazing. Miles is discriminated against by his fellow spider people even when they should support him, just because the spider was from another universe. He also disagrees with the morals of the Spider Society and wants to do his own thing, not bound by society or the laws of the multiverse. It is just a really excellent arc. Now we get to the ending. I actually really like it, and I think it ends in a satisfying way even though it's a cliffhanger. I do want to say I am deeply pissed whenever someone says, "It was only half a movie," as a criticism. Yes, it ends on a cliffhanger, but so do Avengers Infinity War, Kill Bill, Back to the Future movies, and Evil Dead 2, but no one ever says those are half movies. The film finishes all its main themes, the characters still go through full character arcs, the film just ends on a cliffhanger. I'm just hoping whenever Beyond the Spider-Verse releases, this criticism will fade. I just hope to God it will be good. This is my pick for 2023. While Boy and the Heron is a very deserved win, I just can't deny how good Spider-Verse is. It's a great sequel to a great movie. Ratatouille is a masterpiece and one of Pixar's most adult and profound films. It combines so many ingredients: humor, thematic displays, enjoyable characters, and great animation, and put it into one work of art. Remy is a great protagonist. You can truly see his passion for cooking from his very first scene. And despite being liked by his own kind, he has still felt left out, which I find really interesting. I really love the scenes where he just combines ingredients together. The vibrant visuals really help the feeling of discovering new tastes. The food in this film looks great. Like outside of Ghibli, this is the best looking food in an animated film. I'm also gonna argue that this film is the best looking CG animated film pre-Spider-Verse. It doesn't show its age at all, and that's really impressive. The film is also just funny, like really funny. There are some parts that even give Monsters, Inc. a run for its money. I mean, you can't beat the old woman just having a shotgun. Remy's relationship with Linguini is great. I love how they can't understand each other, but still learn to have a functioning dynamic. It's a symbiotic relationship. They both benefit from each other. Remy gets to cook and Linguini gets to keep his job. This is a relationship I have never seen anywhere else in any movie, really. And because of that, it stands out a lot. I love films that show the trial and error and things, and the montage where they first try out the hair tactic is really great. Chef Skinner is an enjoyable antagonist. I love seeing him lose his mind thinking there is a rat, and his chase scene with Remy is entertaining. I also find it fascinating how he's willing to take his dead friend and use his image for cheap microwavable food. I will admit he does overstay his welcome in the latter half of the film, but I mean he is still entertaining, so I don't mind that much. Also, the scene where Skinner finds out that Linguini is Gusteau's heir is kind of ruined now because of all the memes. Still a great scene though. This film also has my favorite liar reveal in any movie ever, when Linguini reveals that Remy is the actual cook. I think what makes this scene stand out compared to most others is that Linguini does it on his own. Chef Skinner doesn't randomly pop up and say he is being controlled by a rat, or a character accidentally finds him without his hat. No, Linguini just tells the other staff. This makes it feel a lot less forced and actually feels like character growth for him. The other staff all quit, which makes sense. They are under impossible circumstances, and they find out the one who can actually cook is a rat. So that doesn't feel forced either. It also helps with the exception of Colette, they don't return, which makes it feel more lasting. Now on to Anton Ego. He serves as a genuine threat without being a villain. He is just a cynical critic that the main characters have to impress. But his best scene, as well as the best scene in the movie, is when Ego eats the ratatouille and is brought back to his childhood. This moment changes him as a person. It's a great scene showing how something as simple as really good food or art can completely change a person in the long run. You later see him far less cynical and actually seems to enjoy life. I finally want to talk about Ego's review. The film starts with the message, anyone can cook, which is an okay message. It is rather simple though, and can easily be misinterpreted. Ego even misinterprets it, and only realizes what it truly means in his review.
Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere.
This is a much more adult message than the one previously. There's one bit of thematic foreshadowing I want to point out. At the very start of the film, only Remy has the heightened sense of taste. None of the other rats do, which ties into the final message perfectly. Even if you can't cook, that doesn't mean you are a failure. Look at Linguini. He is awful at cooking, but at the end of the film, he made a pretty successful restaurant. This film won for 2007, and I'm actually torn. I think this film absolutely deserves it, but the next film also deserves it, and I cannot decide which one should have won. But I feel like it just ever so slightly edges Ratatouille out, so let's talk about it.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness!
Persepolis is a one-of-a-kind film. It is about a woman named Marjane and her experiences living through the Iranian Revolution. It is an adaptation of a graphic novel by the same name. And I will bluntly say this, I think the graphic novel is better. It is slower paced, but that allows more time to connect with the characters. Plus, there are a handful of scenes that I think are handled way better in the book, such as when Margie's neighbor gets bombed. But other than that, this is a perfect adaptation that does the book justice. The art style is taken straight out of the book, and it's beautiful. I love its simplistic black and white animation. It makes it really easy to connect to since it's nondescript. The use of black also allows the film to show oppression in an artistic way. The contrast of the white faces against a black background is very striking. There are also some improvements from the graphic novel, especially in terms of the expressions. They are far more expressive, which gives some scenes a lot more life. Much like Flea and The Breadwinner, this film gives light on experiences that most Westerners don't know about. You get to see Margie's first-hand experience on the Iranian Revolution. Seeing the censorship and the oppression of women in her eyes gives you a greater understanding of what happened. And seeing Margie stand up to the hypocrisies of the government is powerful. This film isn't all bleak though. It is quite lighthearted and even funny at times, which allows for moments of levity. This is why I personally prefer it over other similar films. Also, the Eye of the Tiger sequence is genuinely amazing. It's probably the best use of the song I've seen. The amateur singing is so charming. This is my pick for 2007. While Ratatouille is a masterpiece, this film is something I just can't ignore. It is a brilliant adaptation of a brilliant graphic novel, both of which I would highly advise you to check out.
Did you ever watch Triplets of Belleville?
No!
No,
I didn't.
Yes!
They say
I'm sorry.
something rendezvous. Back saying that doop-de-doo.
The Triplets of Belleville is a deceivingly simple story. It is about a grandmother's son being kidnapped, so she has to save him. That is it. That's the entire plot. But don't be fooled because this film has way more depth than you realize. The film was made by Sylvain Chomet, who made The Illusionist, as well as that one awesome Simpsons couch gag. But this is my favorite of his work. The overall vibe of this movie is perfect. It is very surreal yet grounded. A lot of this movie you don't fully get or understand, but you just accept it as part of the world. We don't know why the mob kidnapped cyclists to be put up in a screwed up gambling game. We just accept it and it's great. There are so many scenes in the film where you're just taken in with the visuals and characters despite not really having any bearing on the plot. One example is when Sousa massages Champion. It is a drawn out scene but you cannot look away. How Champion's leg muscles move and how his back cracks is so disturbingly satisfying. Another great scene is when the triplets don't let Sousa touch random things. It seems strange at first until the next scene where it is revealed that the things she touched were their musical instruments, which I found really cool. The random car chase at the end is just peak cinema. It is very slow yet exciting at the same time. I love how long the mob cars are and how each one is defeated is super satisfying to see. There is also a really creepy baby. And Sousa's big boot is awesome, and it has great setup. I love how a lot of the characters only have one or two expressions, but you can still tell what emotion they are feeling. I love how exaggerated everything is. Every character has a distinct look. Some are honestly disturbing like the other cyclists. They just freak me out in a good way. I also love the design of the mob, with the grunts being shaped like bricks while the bosses are Mario shaped. It isn't just the characters that are exaggerated though. Buildings and vehicles are as well. This is most apparent in Belleville, where everything is unnaturally big. The boats are large and the bridges are even taller to accommodate them. The cityscape is overwhelming, and the Statue of Liberty got put through DeviantArt. The opening is a great tribute to both rubber hose animation and vaudeville. It makes references to real-life people like Josephine Baker, Django Reinhardt, and Fred Astaire. It also features the song Belleville Rendezvous, which is a bop and should have won Best Original Song over the song from Return of the King, which is good but fairly generic, and I would have loved a more unique winner. My favorite part of the film, however, is the dog, whose name is Bruno, not to be confused with Bruno from Cinderella, as this dog actually has aura. He is a surprisingly in-depth character that shows how trauma and hate can lead to obsession. Early in the film, Bruno's tail gets run over by a toy train. This makes him hate trains to the point that he barks at every single one that passes by his house. He became so obsessed that he knows exactly when the train comes. His obsession literally became part of his schedule. He even has dreams about trains, some of them being pretty surreal. But once he goes to Belleville, the trains become a lot more common, coming by every minute as opposed to every hour, which leads him to be tired and exhausted, showing how a change in environment can drastically change someone's regular routine, while also showing how obsession can eventually harm someone. Am I looking too much into a silly gag where a dog barks at a train? Yes, I am, but that's the beauty of this film. This is my pick for 2003, and while I love Finding Nemo, this is a film that I just love so much more. Please, for the love of God, watch it. It is beautiful.
Bob, there's shrimp on sale in the next exit. I can break through.
The Incredibles is by far my favorite superhero film of all time. It nails nearly every aspect of what it's trying to do. It has exciting action, a great family dynamic, memorable characters, deep themes, and a great score. Bob's main character arc is amazing, with him being blinded by his nostalgia of the glory days, which distances himself from his family as shown by the excellent dinner scene. His desire to relive the glory days starts affecting his work environment. He often breaks work policy just to help people, and he even harms an insurance CEO, a true hero. Despite trying to help people, he is hurting his personal life. I really love the argument that Helen and Bob have when she finds out what he has been doing. His interactions with Helen and the kids are wholesome. I especially love the montage after he comes back from the island where he just interacts with the kids and trains. The score of the scene adds to it, despite being ruined by that stupid uncanny meme. Also, this is the obligatory part where I say Edna Mode is very funny. She is only in like 2 scenes, but both of them are very memorable. The film's characters are all great, including the minor ones. Dash's teacher, Bon Voyage, and the kid on the trike are all minor characters, but they make a big impression. Helen and the kids' arc are great. I love how Helen is unwilling to let her kids utilize their powers and fears that they will get caught. And over the course of the film, Helen has to take a big risk by leaving her children in a cave. She has to trust that they will be safe on their own. That takes a lot of heart for a parent to finally accept when their kids are ready to be on their own. The scene where the kids flee the island guards is great too, since you finally get to see them show what they are capable of. It's fun seeing them outsmart the guards and team up with each other. Okay, I've stalled long enough. I have to talk about Syndrome. He is easily the best Pixar villain, and perhaps the best animated movie villain. I love that his entire motivation stems down from Mr. Incredible dismissing him as a kid. His pettiness consumed him to the point where he's willing to commit superhero genocide just for revenge on Mr. Incredible. The scene where Bob finds out about Kronos is chilling. Seeing Bob be dwarfed by a massive screen. Finding out what truly happened to the supers is really intense, aided by the amazing score by Michael Giacchino. Despite not seeing these characters, apart from brief cameos in the wedding scene, you still feel saddened by their deaths, just because you know these were friends of Mr. Incredible. It is easily the best scene in the film. Back to Syndrome. If that wasn't enough to show his pure evilness, he takes pleasure in destroying a government plane, which he knows kids are on board. That doesn't stop him one bit. He didn't even know that they were Bob's children. He also lacks any regard for human life, even with Mirage. He shrugs off Mr. Incredible holding her hostage. Also, his defeat is poetic. I love it when villains' plans would fail no matter what, even if the heroes weren't involved. Also, his death is kinda brutal. The final Omnidroid fight is awesome. It perfectly showcases the family's teamwork. I love how they utilize each of their powers to overcome the Omnidroid. Plus, Frozone is there and he is epic. This obviously won for 2004, and absolutely deservingly so. This film is one of Pixar's best films, but there is still one other that I like slightly more than this one. But before that... This is where I would place Look Back. If you haven't seen the film yet, please skip to the next segment as I will go into major spoilers. This is a film that is best seen blind. Plus it's very short, so please go watch it. Anyways, the film is about two girls named Fujino and Kyomoto, both with a passion for drawing. It's similar to a relationship in Whisper of the Heart, and it's done well here too. Seeing them both grow their friendships is really sweet, and I love the scenes where they work together. And then Kyomoto is murdered. It is shocking and one of the most effective tonal shifts I've seen in any film. The despair of Fujino is depressing. There are scenes where she blames herself for her death, and imagine what would have happened if things went differently. She even lets her grief affect her passions, not wanting to pursue them anymore, but she is reminded of the happy moments of Kyomoto. Even though she may be gone, her memories still persist. You may know that one of my cats, Zebra Shark, passed away a few months ago. It was sudden and shocking. I didn't know what to do, but I kept thinking of this film and its themes of grief, and it really helped me during this dark moment. It allowed me to look back on Zebra Shark in a bittersweet light. I will be forever thankful of this film's existence because of this. Anyways, let's finish off the main ranking. WALL-E was a massive part of my childhood, being one of the first films I distinctly remember seeing at the drive-in. I remember loving it then, and 17 years later, it's still a masterpiece. A lot of the world agrees too, as it is the only Pixar film to be in the Criterion Collection, and the second ever to make it into the National Film Registry. The film opens with the song Put On Your Sunday Clothes from the musical Hello Dolly, which works so well with the polluted Earth backdrop. I love nostalgic music accompanying the post-apocalypse. Gotta be one of my favorite genders. The first 30 minutes of this movie is pure perfection. There's barely any dialogue, and when there is, it serves the film's environmental storytelling. You just get brief snippets of what happened. The rest is just watching WALL-E do his daily routine among the trashed Earth. I love how WALL-E has an appreciation for humanity, even after they are long gone, by keeping trinkets and watching their movies. He's also lonely. His only companion is a cockroach, and you can see when he watches Hello Dolly, he desires something more: love. When Eve arrives, he finally meets someone else. He starts to become attached to her, and initially she is dismissive, but she slowly learns to like him. Seeing the two interact is heartwarming, and I love WALL-E showing her his trinkets, really emphasizing their bond. They're one of the greatest movie couples of all time. But when people say the film fell off after WALL-E goes to space, I strongly disagree, as I think it is great. The Axiom is a completely automated society, advertisements everywhere, and the humans are mindlessly consuming everything, and being completely blind to what is happening around them. The similar case is with the other robots. They are mindless and blindly following orders, but we know they have personalities. Look at Eve. At the beginning, she giggles and laughs, but often hides it due to her duty. But it's only when she interacts with WALL-E is when she finally shows her true personality. This applies to the other robots on the ship. While they have personalities, they only show their true colors when WALL-E interacts with them. He also snaps the humans out of their trance where they truly appreciate the beauty of the world. Namely the captain, who starts to appreciate Earth and wants to save it in a beautiful scene, paired with WALL-E and Eve dancing in space with an impeccable score to boot. God, I love this movie so much. The one character that WALL-E doesn't change is Otto. In fact, Otto sees WALL-E as a threat, and tries to stop him and the plant at all costs. This is explained by his programming and that he had direct orders not to return to Earth. But I don't think that is the only reason. This is more of a theory, but I believe Otto wants to stay on the Axiom so he can have complete control over everything. Think about it. He has ruled over the ship for centuries, and when something comes along to end that, he sees it as an immediate threat, because he knows he will be useless and lose all his powers if they return to Earth. Again, this is just a theory, an Otter theory! This is why I can't take people who think Otto is a weak villain seriously. The ending is great. WALL-E gets powered down and rebooted, seemingly losing his personality. Eve thinks she has lost him, but with one spark of love, he comes back. This is a beautiful ending to a beautiful film. But wait, the credits also continue the story a little more, showing how humans regrow their society. But something I love about them is that the art style changes. It starts from cave paintings to Roman tiles to Van Gogh paintings, symbolizing how this new society is evolving over time. This won for 2008 and absolutely deserved it. This is one of the greatest Pixar films and the absolute peak of American animation. Where do I even begin with Spirited Away? It is easily Miyazaki's best film and rightfully regarded as one of the best animated films of all time. The film takes heavy inspiration from works like Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz, as Chihiro is sent to an otherworldly and fantastical realm. But instead of following a yellow brick road or a white rabbit, she is forced to work, otherwise she disappears. Sort of how in modern work culture you might as well not exist if you don't have a job. I find it fascinating how this movie uses this fantastical world to commentate on a grounded real-world issue. Seeing Chihiro's journey throughout the film is so satisfying, seeing her grow more confident as the film goes on, gaining relationships with other spirits and even outsmarting some. A great contrast to her cowardly personality at the beginning of the film. I love the other characters within the film, like the spider guy who has all the suit sprites, Yubaba, who I believe is based off of the Baba Yaga, a witch-like figure from Slavic folklore. They have similar personalities and both have bird imagery. I also really like the frog, because he's a frog. I really love these characters, and they're interesting in ways that I cannot really describe. And then Haku, who's a wonderful character whose relationship with Chihiro is really something. What I love about this film is that it doesn't explain much, and it doesn't need to. Unlike Howl's Moving Castle, where the unexplained just raises questions. But with this, when you see something that you don't understand, you can easily accept it as just a quirk about this world. There are some visual inferences that you can piece together though. For example, why do the spirits hate humans? The possible reason is pollution and how little they care about the natural world. You can see this with the river spirit, who is covered in gunk and garbage, mostly from human pollution. Now on to No Face, who I think represents loneliness and abandonment and lack of purpose, which is why he is so desperate to seek approval, often mimicking how the other spirits act or giving them valuables to gain their approval. He becomes attached to Chihiro after she lets him in. This simple act of kindness means a lot to him, and he starts becoming obsessed with her, desperate to seek more approval. And I love the connection they formed, especially on the train scene where it's just them sitting. It is such a beautiful moment that cannot be described with words. This won for 2002, and there were no other options. This film is a wonderful masterpiece that deserves its praise and then some. Yet there is still one other film that I think is better. I have talked about over 100 movies over many videos, but we are finally here. This is not only my favorite film nominated for this category, but also my favorite film of all time. That being The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. This film is a masterpiece in almost every single way. From the characters, the story, the themes, the animation, and the music. It was directed by the late legend Isao Takahata in his final film. The film is an adaptation of a 10th century Japanese literary tale, The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, which is about a bamboo cutter finding a baby inside a bamboo stalk and raising her as a princess. The movie is very faithful to the original tale, but it does change a few key things. It fleshes out Kaguya's childhood and adds major themes like traditional gender roles and human misery. Apart from that, the story is mostly unchanged, showing how even a tale from over a millennia ago can still hold up in today's society. The film's animation is breathtaking. It is animated like traditional Japanese sketches, similar to those in the original story. It just gives the story so much more life that most other styles of animation cannot. It makes you really connect to the main character. Early in the film, Kaguya finds some friends. Amongst those friends, she meets a boy named Sutamaru, who she has a close relationship with. She enjoys the moments with Sutamaru, singing songs and collecting food. She feels free, until her parents force her to become a princess, thinking it will give her the perfect life by protecting her from the sorrows and pain of the real world. But as a result, she feels isolated. not able to experience things like life and beauty, making her feel miserable and bored, and she yearns for the simple rural life, showing how sorrow and joy need to coexist to live a fulfilling life. The film also commentates how women in power were treated back in the day. Despite being powerful figures, they were also limited by the culture. They have to abide by societal customs, including not being able to express any feelings, essentially not being human. This system prevents Kaguya from living the life she wants. There is a scene where she encounters many suitors and she tasks them to recover impossible artifacts if they want to be with her. While some give out fakes, in hilarious scenes may I add, there are a few that lost their lives trying to gain these artifacts, giving Kaguya grief and regret that she basically sent these people out to their deaths. The film's art style shows a contrast between the rural and the royal life, with the rural scenes being more muted in color with softer lines showing how simple it is, while the royal scenes are bolder with more vibrant colors. One of my favorite parts of the film is when Kaguya runs away from the palace. The art style changes to become more intense strokes of charcoal. It is very roughly animated, showing how she feels at that particular moment. The scene is also elevated by the score composed by Joe Hisashi. These aspects combined makes the scene one of the most striking animated moments I have ever seen. Another scene I love is when Kaguya goes outside of the palace to the cherry blossom tree, experiencing joy and beauty for a brief moment, finally getting the chance to truly express herself. She is giggling and laughing and running around. She then bumps into a kid and her mother, who immediately grovel to her, bringing her back to reality. The scene also shows how people treat royalty. They essentially treat them like gods rather than people. Near the end of the film, she silently begs to be brought back to the moon, but she immediately regrets her decision, despite the pains and sorrows. She doesn't want to abandon her life on Earth, the joys and beauties it contains. The scene where she reconnects with Sutamaru is heartbreaking, as she gets to experience the life she never got one last time. When the people of the moon come to retrieve her, there's this contrast with it being a very somber scene, but the design of the moon people is extravagant and vibrant. It just makes the scene hauntingly beautiful. Kaguya loses all her memories, but even without them, she looks back onto Earth crying, knowing that she lost something beautiful. This is obviously my pick for 2014, and I will never forgive the Academy for awarding it to Big Hero 6 over this masterpiece. This is one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen, and I'm glad I get to talk about it. Hey y'all, Otter here. Thank you all for watching this series. It was a lot of work for me, and it means a lot to me that people bothered to watch it. I just love talking about movies, and I'm glad I got to express this here. I'd like to thank the people who helped me work on this, including the people who volunteered to do a guest segment, like Liam, YT Rob, and both of my parents. I'd also like to shout out Jamie from JA Productions, who has supported this series despite our differing opinions. This was a really fun series to make, and I can't wait to do more like this in the future. It will just be too much effort. I have slightly different opinions now. I made a bunch of mistakes in the first few videos, and there's just a few things that I rather not deal with. But I will be making an addendum video when the new nominees get revealed, just talking about those and also fixing other mistakes I made. There are a lot of other videos I want to do. There's the credit sequence ranking of these films, which should be fun. I'm also thinking of doing director rankings. I'm thinking of doing Del Toro first. This will be a ways away, but I'm also thinking of doing a huge Disney song ranking. But there's so many other ideas that I just can't wait to put out, so look forward to those. Anyways, thank you again for watching, and goodbye.